I'm going to work on the boys here while you're doing it. Well, okay. How you doing? Add some extra coffee to my coffee. Yes. I don't know what it is. Spray back. Oh, no. She said she's ready for it.
1 minute to group.
Should I go ahead and work on our bed, or should I just wait?
Say that again?
Should I go ahead and work on Manor's bed, or should I wait?
Well, we got to be in group on group time, so.
That's just a question point out. Really?
Put some on the paper towel.
Yes, man, that's what I was actually doing.
Why? Because that can
I understand. If I find one, I'll let you know. Not that I expect. Thank you. You're all right, baby. Here's my part in the day. I will mark in the day. Whoa.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, group time. Thank you for coming to group. Few little business things that we have to take care of kind of quickly. We'll get that done, get it out of the way. Just a few days till Christmas. It's going to be fun. Good morning. I don't know about you, but I'm excited about the stuff I'm getting for Christmas. I know that one of my gifts is going to be a package of new T-shirts. And I'm excited about getting some new T-shirts. We are, this week, our focus is, for this stage, our focus is supposed to be on family health. And we're going to look at that a little bit, see what we're going to be able to do this morning. Couple of things. Make sure that you've got your sign-in sheets going around. Get yourself all signed in. Make sure it's legible so I can read it. And then put it out in the thing over at North so I can pick it up and, know how to do it here as well. I'm not really sure how group is going. I've been using the same excuse for the last couple of weeks. I don't feel well, but my doctor contacted me. My doctor's office contacted me this morning and let me know that they're going to be calling me back at any time, going to. So it could be at any time. They couldn't tell me exactly when. So my phone is still on live and all of that. And if they call me, I'm going to have to declare a break. And we'll go take a break for a couple of minutes. So I check on my health and you can go smoke and ruin yours.
Okay.
You know how that is. So, and I do apologize for that because I just really don't feel well. And, at some point we may take a break anyway. So we're going to go through this as best we can. The holidays are coming up, and one of the things, this is a family thing, and families are going to be right in the center of all of that kind of stuff. But for a lot of us, we're not going to be able to be there. So there's a few things that I want us to look at to help us get through the stress and the distress and all of that kind of stuff that sometimes surrounds stuff like the holidays. So one of the things I want us to look at this morning, we're going to go ahead and read our little deal, but then we're going to be looking at boundaries. Why would we look at boundaries for self-care during the holidays?
Well, I don't know about for the holidays specifically, but boundaries are a good way to both protect yourself and to prevent yourself from going over lines you never knew.
Yeah. Yeah, boundaries. How many people have boundaries? Everybody has boundaries. Everybody in here has boundaries. Boundaries are different for different people. So we need to, we're going to talk about the best boundaries, how to set the best boundaries, how to have those. We're also going to look at a self-care inventory this morning a little bit real quickly if we get around to it. And we're going to be looking at the please skill. And, you know, those are all pretty good stuff. They're real good therapy tools. So we're going to take a look at them. Some of them we can apply to our lives. Some of them we can't. You will know the difference, right? So this morning, when we first get into recovery, a lot of the times we know that we're in recovery, but our families have to be in recovery as well. Here's the deal. Our families may not use any kind of drug or any kind of alcohol or anything like that, but a lot of the times your family has to recover from what you did. You know, they have to recover from the mess that we've put in their life. You know, we are our children's number one role model. We are our parents' children. We are our grandparents' grandchild. I was sitting with a person this weekend talking about how their grandchildren are being detrimental to them. Just a whole lot of issues like that. So our recovery is the recovery for a whole bunch of people. This is not a me by myself type of thing, right? Sometimes it's okay, me by myself stuff. Sometimes it's okay for me to be a little bit, what's the word?
Selfish.
When I'm only thinking of myself, not selfish. Sometimes it's a really good thing for me to be a little bit selfish about my recovery, because I don't really care what you need, what you want. I'm not putting my recovery in jeopardy. You know, I've had people tell me, you know, come over to our house for Christmas. We're going to have a really good time. It's going to be really wonderful. There's going to be great food there. There's going to be all kind of booze and all of this stuff that you don't have to use. You're right. I don't have to. Not coming to your house. Not going to go over there, because that puts my recovery in jeopardy. And people don't seem to know that. And one of the things people don't know is that it is not you using that's going to trigger me. It's you. You are it. You're the trigger. Not you using booze, not you shooting up in front of me, not you smoking dope like a dipstick. It's your person. It's you. It's your voice. It's your body odor. It's whatever you are in my life that's a trigger to me. So I don't have to just stay away from you using. I have to stay away from you. Now everybody looks at the ceiling, because we're all right now. The picture of someone who we know we're going to be able to get them off drugs too, and all of this. No, you're not. You're going to that's just going to be that place that gets you stuck again. So we need to know that. We need to know that. So, you know, so here's the deal. Usually, not all the time, but usually when we get into recovery, we leave behind a family that has been a bit estranged. What does that mean?
Far away.
Say it again.
Far away.
Far away, outside of my sphere of influence. Don't like me anymore. Don't care for me anymore. I've had people say, well, the word estranged sounds like they're strange. They're not strange. They're normal. You have any children that you really love? You have any grandchildren that you really love? You have any grandchildren or children that are really obnoxious? Yeah, I've got a grandchild I know for a fact will be at my house on Christmas Day, and his dad is a truck driver, and he drives for Walmart. And at this time of year, men, they're busy. So Dad's going to be coming in early in the morning. They live like 4 hours away. They're going to drive down to get their loot and leave our loot, you know, and eat some of our ham. And then in a couple of hours, they're going to have to leave to get back, because he's got to go to work like, 2 in the morning or something the next morning. And, that's real stressful. That's hard on that boy and all of that kind of stuff. But deep down in my heart, I'm saying, okay then. Because I have a grandson I love the boy. I would give my life for the boy, but I don't like him because he's spoiled, he's rotten, he's screaming and yelling, and he's trying to break everything his grandmother and I have worked for years to put together. And if you tell him, look, this is precious, this is an antique. You don't want to do that because that shows him something that he needs to work overtime to kill. And I hate the fact that he's got to do all that work, but he's going to get that little nasty sucker out my house with him. So I love him. I just don't like him. So here's the deal. When we're estranged from our family, it means you have multiple family estrangements. Multiple family broken relationships that may be in various stages of turmoil. Look, I've been sober for a minute. There are people in my life who love me. There are other people in my life who can't get enough of me. You're enthused about that card, huh? Man, that's a card. You know that's a really beautiful card. It is, because it'll take people's focus completely off of the study. It's a card, so look at that card. It's got stuff on it. Must be like Christmas or something. So anyway. So you got some problems. Well, I have other people in my life that they're just not in my life anymore. There are people who are a little bit worried. You going to join us at all? Or are you just going to talk about that card? You with us?
Yes.
Thank you. So some of these people you are actively avoiding or in direct conflict with more than one family member, trusted friend, or a partner. Because sometimes, when we say the word family, are we always talking about blood relations? No, because a lot of the times our friends are closer to us than our own family, right? Sometimes our neighbors are very close to us. I live out in the country a little bit, and I don't have neighbors that are very close to me geographically, but I have some neighbors there that I'm pretty close to. I can go sit on their porch and drink coffee with them. So sometimes I have family members that I can't go sit on their porch and have coffee with them, because they're not up for that. So here's the deal. We do need to have in our lives good, solid boundaries. We need to have healthy boundaries, right? So there's about 4 different types of boundaries. We all operate under those boundaries. So I want to take a real quick look at the boundaries. And here's the boundaries on the board. I know they don't look really well, but what type of boundary would you think that this boundary would be? What does that look like?
A brick wall.
A brick wall, kind of like a brick wall. So what kind of boundary do you think that might be?
An iridescent one.
Which is?
An iridescent one.
An iridescent one? Absolutely no.
Solid.
That word doesn't even fit in that sentence. Iridescent? Iridescent means it shines and it looks good. Iridescent.
I can't see it at all.
Okay. But just take a shot at it and see. But this is going to be what kind of boundary?
Non-negotiable or solid, I would think.
That's a rigid boundary.
Rigid.
Yeah. So we want to have a rigid boundary in our life?
Yes.
Probably in some instances, but not all the time. Because a rigid boundary, what does that mean?
Strong.
Well, a rigid boundary, say it again?
It doesn't bend or anything.
No, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't show any emotions. It doesn't let anybody in. It's not really up for loving somebody, liking somebody. It's rigid. You cannot get with that person. So let's establishing healthy boundaries is essential for maintaining mental health, for keeping us from being depressed or anxious during the holiday. So we need to know what kind they are. You know, when we visualize our boundaries, we take a look. There are some things that we can deal with, and some things we can't deal with. But our boundary is going to help us to do that. Well, if we have a circle, we're going to do a circle real quick. Y'all know what circles are, but inside this circle is another circle, and what does that represent?
Bullseye.
A bullseye. Also, it represents the things that I can deal with and the things I can't deal with. So inside my circle is going to be some things I'm going to put in here to help me with my boundaries. And here's some things. We can do some of these things. Following a morning routine that includes 10 minutes of meditation and a cup of herbal tea. Can we do that?
Yeah.
Is that good for us? Usually it is. That's going to help us to relax a little bit and deal with some things that we hadn't been dealing with well. So also meeting up with somebody for coffee dates, being at home with the dog, doing some good things, attending therapy every Sunday evening, set aside for an hour for a relaxing bath or something like that. You know, just some things that's going to help me to build a good, what are those things? What do they sound like? They sound like me time. We need to have some me time. We need to have some time when I am doing something for who? For me. For me. You know, we've got some stuff that's going on here. We've got Christmas things happening and all of that stuff. And in that period of time, you know, a lot of people get depressed. A lot of people get upset. But it is... You tell somebody, group, they just cancel all that stuff called group. Group is going on. There you go. Yeah, all right. Somebody's going to get all well. You know. So there are some things that that we may need to take a look at, which would show me I have some healthy boundaries. Because see, when somebody comes up and says, "I need you to do this," say, "No, I'm in the midst of me time. I ain't going over there. I'm in group. It's my me time." You know, there's some other things that we might need to take a look at and say, well, you know what? I have a good, healthy boundary. I don't need to do that. How many people, now y'all, just think about it. You don't have to. How many people have been in an argument in the last week? I just said, y'all don't have to identify it, but, you know, if you want to. All right, if you've been in an argument in the last week, is that conducive to being peaceful? No. So some of the things that we need to think about, interacting with a neighbor who often stops by unannounced and expects me to drop everything to entertain them. You know those folks? Yeah, people don't do that in my house. I don't live to entertain you. My wife, on the other hand, she has a few friends out there, and she'll just stop by their house. It is really good to have friends like that. Really good. I don't want them, but it's really good for my wife. I don't want to just drop by somebody's house. I'm the type of person, I'm going to call you, let you, you know, and inform you, hey, you know what? I have a little extra time. I would like to come by and spend it with you. How do you feel about that? And they, you know, if they say something like, man, we've been waiting on you to call. Please come by. Go by and have a cup of coffee. But if they say something like, you know, over the last 10 years, we've been trying to keep you out to our house. Have you not noticed? You know, we need, that's the way I'm going to do something. Yesterday, we had a big old thing at church where everybody came back after church and ate Christmas cookies. You know, so my wife has a cousin who made her a Christmas cookie about this big and a big old sheet of, you know, and she said, well, we're going to go by there and pick that up. I said, okay, we'll call her and let her know we're coming. She said, I'm not going to do that. Just go. Okay. So my wife goes to her. Now, this is her cousin. This is also her best friend in the world. But she'll go walk in the house. Yeah, I'm not, there's no way. I'm knocking on the door, waiting for you to come to the door or yell, please come into my domicile, you know. I'm not going to go in there like that because who knows what them people are doing. Yeah, you know, if you're by yourself in your house alone and you go to the bathroom, do you close the door?
No.
Yes, I do. I close the door. Someone may be in the neighborhood breaking into people's houses, and I don't want them to see me eliminating nothing. You know what I'm saying? I don't know why that is, but I'm closing the door. I'm going to do that. If somebody walks into my house, I'm going to shoot them. And it'd be real sad if that happened to wind up being like my cousin. Or something. So don't do that. When you get through treatment, you're in your recovery real well, and you come over, you don't do that. Now, if you're Caitlin, I will let you come and hang out on my porch. Just don't come in the house, but you can hang out on my porch. Yeah, you know. If you're Caitlin, but Caitlin's the only Caitlin we got, so ain't a whole bunch of Caitlins. So, engaging conversations that turned into heated debate about politics or social issues or religion or something like that there. Y'all do that? Look, that's something, it's the holiday season. Let there be peace on earth and goodwill toward men and women. You know, I mean, look, 99% of the time, it's not 100% of the time, probably more like 90% of the time, we know the other person's views. Huh?
Yeah.
We know what they think about that. And we know that if we go up and say, hi, that we're about to get a little bit of a heated argument, maybe not in a knockdown, drag-out fight, maybe not kill one another, but we are going to get into one of those heated arguments. Right? We know that. And if we know that, should we do that? Oh, no. Because we don't want to get into a heated argument, because what happens? Our blood pressure goes up, our stress level goes up, which causes all sorts, what is it?
IQ goes down.
Your IQ goes down. And look, we're already not smart enough, so we want to get, we want to keep our IQ at the highest level we can. So we want to be careful about all of that kind of stuff. So we want to avoid that if we know it's going to happen. We know it's going to happen, so we need to avoid it, So seeing, look, how many people watch the news all the time? I do. I get up in the morning at 4 o'clock in the morning, and then at 5 o'clock the news comes on, right? And so I watch the news from 5 o'clock to about 5:30, and then it starts to repeat, so I go get ready to come to work. But seeing graphic news reports or violent scenes, do y'all notice that once we see something on the tube, it can change our mood, it can change our attitude, it can change the way we're feeling? I love this time of year because, almost the whole other 11 months of the year, you never see anything worthy of watching on the news. 72,000 people were killed today. We don't know why. Feller just started shooting and killed it. Okay. But over here, 14,000 good things happen. Let's talk about those for a couple of minutes. We don't have time, but people want to see the bad, nasty, and ugly, right? Because that's what changes our mood and all of that kind of stuff. So here's the deal. You know how you change that?
Change the channel?
Just turn it off. Yeah, leave that alone. And then they say, well, look, people's not watching this anymore. Okay, maybe they'll find something good. They proved that the other day that G movies, just family movies, make like 4 times more money than an R-rated movie. But they make more R-rated movies than they do because they're not interested in healthy, good things. They want to get that, bad stuff out there. So watch what you watch. It's like thinking about what you're thinking about. Watch what you watch. Being in crowded, noisy environments like shopping malls. My wife sent me to, and I got to do it again today, Sam's. Y'all ever been to Sam's? You ever been to Sam's during the Christmas holidays? You ever been to Sam's on Saturday during the Christmas holidays? There are 14 people died in the rush over there. I mean, it's just not a good place to be. And when you find what you want to buy, you got it, you go in, you buy the one item that you wanted, and there's 30,000 people in the store, so it takes you 3 days to get out of the checkout thing because I don't have the thing on my phone like my wife does, so she can cheat. So I got to go to Sam's today because we're getting low on water, and for some reason we need water. So my friend's late night calls disrupt my sleep and leave me feeling overwhelmed and drained by their constant venting. Do you have a friend who feels like they need to call you at 10 o'clock at night or 12 o'clock at night or 2 in the morning? He's shaking his head like, get a different friend. That ain't no friend. I had a guy call me the other night. It's about 12 o'clock midnight. Well, what on earth? So I called him right back, because he's 78 and his health is really bad. And what are you doing calling me at 12 o'clock at midnight? What's the deal? I've been sleeping since 8 o'clock. I've been asleep for a while. So I answered. I got the phone. He hung up before I got there, and I called him back to see if, he was dying or something. And he said, well, you texted me earlier in the day. I just now read it, and I thought I'd call you. And I looked at the clock, and I said, he's probably sleeping. Not now,
Yeah.
So, anyway. My children get overstimulated in public. You have some overstimulated children in public? Do you? I don't. The first time my child got overstimulated in public, and we tied him to the little thing there and dragged him for about halfway through the Walmart store, and the people are going, get him, when he unstimulated. I was in the store the other day, and I'm walking along, and I'm looking at stuff, and we're in the cereal aisle, right? And I don't eat cereal, so I don't know why I was in the cereal aisle, but I was in the cereal aisle, and there's a lady with a wombat at the end of her hand. Because he wanted the sugar cereal. He didn't want, good, healthy cereal, which there's no such thing, but there's something that claims to be, but he wanted the one with the most sugar, sugar-coated sugar bombs is what, and and I'm thinking, wow, that guy, that kid, yeah, man. So what do you do with a child like that?
Why do we try to talk to him?
Just talk to him.
Right.
Yeah. I would talk to him. Yeah, with a hammer. Yeah.
Step one.
My children get overstimulated in public and act out, making me anxious and embarrassed. And look, I know that it's hard. I know that there's moms out there who are single moms and they're working 2 jobs and they're doing all of that kind of stuff, but I ain't taking my kid to the store when they act like that. I was like, little Johnny, little Susie, you ain't never coming out in public again. Now, I don't know how you're going to meet somebody, but when you're about 30, you can get married, and then you can come back to the store, but at this time, you're not, and you just got to know that if I'm going to go to the store and take my kid with me, it's going to be that kind of activity going on. When I come out of there, it's not going to be good. So we just know that. So one thing, teach them. Say, look, when we go to public, we don't do this. And that's not a brand new thing. It's always happened. There was a guy, a bishop, and he wrote a letter to the church, and he said, we need to help deal with children because they're just not as respectful as they used to be. They wear their hair in crazy ways. They wear their clothes goofy. They're disrespectful, and they're loud, and they do all of this kind of stuff. Those are the children of today. And it was written in 1897. So kids have been bad, because kids are bad. That's just the way that is. So if you look at your kid and your kid is bad, it's not because you're bad. It's because your kid is overstimulated. Quit feeding them sugar or cocaine. Neither one of those things are good for kids, right? Sugar is more addictive than cocaine. And there was a study that came out about 5 years ago that sugar has absolutely no effect on hyperactivity in children. That guy was an idiot because you can take a kid who's sleeping, give him a little bit of sugar, and he'll start bouncing off the wall. That's observable, right? We can see that. We know that. So don't give him 9 Pop-Tarts before you take him to the store. Give him some oatmeal with no sugar in it. Make him eat it. Yes, it's good. Yes, it is. Good. Eat it. That's what my mama used to do. She put something up there and I said, Mama, I don't like that. So, well, okay. I like oatmeal sometimes with some raisins in it. I had a big bowl of oatmeal the other day with some raisins in it, but I haven't eaten any since that because a couple of the raisins were moving. Yeah, okay. Those raisins have turned. You know what I'm saying? So family reunions. This is some things that can be bad. With relatives I rarely see make me anxious. As I struggle with the noise and the constant interactions, and I like people, so that doesn't bother me. But there are some people in my family I don't like. So do I go to family reunions and interact with those people? I go to family reunions when we have one. My wife had her 50th high school reunion the other day. And, there was probably 200 people there. We interacted with like 4. All the rest of these people, we don't. And some big old fellow came walking up and said, "Hey, I knew you in high school." And I said, "That was high school, brother." Things have changed, you know what I'm saying? This ain't high school. You mean go on, swaddle off somewhere else, So he did. So we some of that stuff can happen. So, doing family gatherings, my cousin makes dismissive comments about my need for therapy. Would that bother you? Yeah, I have cousins and stuff. I have a cousin that makes his own wine, stuff like that. Every time you go to his house, he wants to show you his new batch. So I don't go to his house like I used to. Right? I just don't, because they don't really understand. They say, look, if you would just do this, and if you would just do that, everything would be okay. So they dismiss the fact that sometimes I need to talk to somebody about some deep stuff that I need. Here's the thing that I decided about, I guess, 35, 40 years ago. That's none of Bubba's business, is it? I'm not going to go tell Bubba, I'm going down here to see Miss Sierra. Because, I have this deep-seated desire to, hit you with a hot poker. And I'm trying to talk myself out of that by talking with someone who knows how to do that. It's not I'm not going to tell him. If I know that he's going to be dismissive about my need to do what I need, to go to a group on Christmas morning, if that's what I need, to go by my local, because it's going to be open, my group's there. So, I'm going to go by, it's at a local Catholic church, and I'm going to go by there, and I'm going to go in and sit down. There are going to be some other people there, and then we're going to talk about whatever we need to talk about, because that's what the group is about. So if I know that cousin so-and-so is going to poo-poo my need to do that, I'm not going to tell him where I'm going. It's none of his business. So all this is about is that we need to know that we need to set up some boundaries in our life that help us to deal with these things. We don't need to get the stress and the anxiety some of these things are going to do. So some of the things we need to look, some of the things that's on our outer circle, we need to look at what's currently causing me stress or unease. What do you think right now is currently causing you some stress or unease? The holidays. And the holidays do that to a lot of people.
Yes.
Responsibility does that to a lot of people. My stomach's been hurting me for 3 weeks. You think that's stressful? It is. I called my doctor on Friday, and they said, "Oh, we've got your results back." I said, "Oh, okay." I had a CAT scan. They said, "Oh, okay, great. What are they?" Well, the people that can tell you that have gone home for the day. So that's Friday. They leave at noon. So I called them back this morning at 8 o'clock, and I talked to the lady, and she said, "Well, we can't tell you nothing. Your results are in, but we're gonna have to have the doctor call you." I said, "Okay, that's not stressful at all. That doesn't cause me to think, oh my God, I've got stage 4 cancer of the thing, and I'm gonna die before Christmas, or before the group is over. But she said, no, he'll call you, just it'll be all right. Okay, all right. So that's a little stressful. All of this kind, even have to go to the doctor. It's Christmas. So anyway. So those are some things. So what do we do when we figure out something is stressful to us? Something is causing us some junk. I called my doctor. I'm waiting for them to call me back. This afternoon, if they don't call me back, I'm going to call them again. At some point, I'm going to call. Or I know where their office is. I'm going to go over there. Also, something else caused me a little bit of stress. I did a little something that I shouldn't have done in my job, and now I got to tell my boss. Y'all know how mean she can be, so she's kind of scared. So I've already let her know, hey, I screwed up. So she's getting prepared. She's out there now. She's over at the other unit. She'll be back at 12. On the way back, she's gonna pick up a bag of rocks. So so that's a little stressful for me. But we need to know what causes us stress. Y'all know what the term falling on the sword means? Way back in the day, when a commander in the army or something had lost a battle or done something really stupid, do exactly that, put his sword on the ground and just fall over on the sword. So that's what I have to do, and I intend to do that quickly as you can. Okay, I screwed this up, gonna fall on the sword. So quickly as you can. So, what do I feel like excites me every day? What am I excited about every day?
Work.
Some people get excited about work. What else?
Their family. See the family.
Some people get excited about the family. I get excited about breakfast. I like to eat. So I get excited about breakfast. I get excited about the group. When I'm studying for the group and everything, I'm thinking this will work. This, and I get excited about that. Yeah. I know some people don't. What was that? Jobs. Yeah, we just talked about. Excited about your job. Excited about. Look, I will tell you that. I'm 72. I'm already retired. I'm here again. And I don't have to be here. So, the thing about it is when I get up in the morning, I'm thinking about coming to work. I get excited about the fact that I'm up. One of the big things is I'm not at the house all day. I spend some time being at the house all day, and that doesn't excite me. Once you get everything caught up, you got nothing to do. Most people, when they retire, within 3 or 4 years, they die. My son-in-law told me yesterday he was finna retire. So, okay. He works out one of the plants, been there for about 35, 40 years. No, told me last night he'd been there 25 years at that particular plant. They've got enough. So he's planning on retiring. Well, he's in his 50s. Okay. That gives you 20, 30 years. You're going to have to figure out what to do, So, anyway, what do I find myself dreading every day? What is it, that one thing that I really don't want to do that day? There's a few things.
Wash dishes. I hate washing dishes.
Washing dishes, we don't like. Yeah, we don't like to do it. It's something that's necessary, but we don't like to do it. I do it every day. At night, my wife will cook a little something other. She's had some medical issues, and at night, I make sure she doesn't have to wash the dishes. And then in the morning, when I get up, they're all cleaned and everything. I put them all up. We have a dishwasher, but it's on the outs right now, so I am the dishwasher. Yeah, I don't mind it, but it's not my favorite thing. Not my favorite thing. Like I said, Miss Sierra is going to be back over here, and I have the opportunity to go sit down with her and tell her where I screwed something up. I'm not really dreading that, but it's not something that I'm really excited about doing. So why do I need to know what I'm going to dread to do?
Okay.
Get yourself prepared. Get yourself prayed up, stayed up. Um, avoid it if you can. Well, some of the stuff that you dread doing, you really don't have to do, but so if you can avoid it, okay, I'm not doing that. If I dread doing that, if I dread going to wash the dishes, maybe I can hire a dishwasher. Because that's going to cause that to happen. So, is there something that energizes me or uplifts me every day? What is that?
Coffee.
Coffee? Coffee energizes me. Yeah, I drink too much coffee. Don't drink enough water. But yeah, that energizes me. I will tell you, my relationship with my God energizes me. I look at that and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what? Why he picked me out, why he loves me. That's an amazing thing to me. It's an amazing thing that God would do some things in my life that, if he didn't do them, they wouldn't have been done. It's an amazing thing. I was working for Centacor, and they have people that stay in Centacor. They used to. I don't think they do anymore, but they'd stay for 2 years in Centacor. And we were in bad shape financially and all of that stuff. And I was praying on the way to work over there at Centacor, and I told the Lord, I said, look, if you just give me a week's worth of food, we'd be great. If I could just get a week's worth of food somehow or another. I got over there, and God is good. The lady from the long side came over and said, hey, anybody here need some food? So, okay, there's my week's worth of food. For 3 days, I was hauling food out of their walk-in food pantry, not food pantry, freezer. There's all kind of meats, all kind of soups, gourmet stuff. I took all of that stuff home. We had to buy another freezer, and we've got now 3 freezers. And this was years ago. We still have some of those soups in our freezer from. So when God says He's a God of abundance, He means you ask for a week, believing He'll give you 2 years worth. Yeah, so that's some good stuff. So that excites me. I get excited about that. I do get excited about coming to church, about going to church. I do get excited about coming to work because it's exciting to me to see one of you guys when the light bulb comes on. It's not so exciting when you come back for the 4th or 5th or 6th time, but it is way exciting when I can look and say, got something. They got something. So they've learned that they have to leave that guy or that girl alone. All right. There are some people in my life. Who is it in your life that feels you drained or exhausted? There's some people in my life that when I go and interact with those people after that's over with, I'm exhausted. That's like my grandson. I love the kid. He's my grandson. By law, you have to love him because he's my grandson. But he leaves me. His mother was a little older than she should have been, when she had him. She's like in her 30s when they had this guy. And her first kid, you couldn't touch him. If he killed 19 people, you couldn't say, no, don't do that, And so he's like 6 or 7 now. And it's like he's a juvenile delinquent. He's horrible. But when I hang out with him, it's all trying to keep him from destroying something, hurting himself, hurting us, killing the dog, all of those kinds of things. And so by the time he leaves, we're exhausted. Yeah. And so, but so here's the deal. And y'all might think this mean, nasty, and ugly, but I just praise God they live 4 hours away. I love him. I'll send him a couple of bucks, but, So are there some people around you that make you feel safe, valued, supported? Do you know people like that? Oh, yeah. I've got some people, that make me feel supported. I will tell you this, that My wife, of course, makes me feel. She got up this morning with me at 5 o'clock in the morning. I got up at 4. She got up at 5 just to sit and talk with me. And she's talking to me about my medical stuff and all of that going on right now. The staff here, they support me. They're good to me. My boss is supportive and loving and all. It's a good place to be. And so, it's good to have people in your life that support you. So who are you going to hang out with more? The ones who drain you, exhaust you, or the ones who support you and lift you up and let you leave them feeling better? Who are you going to hang out with? Do you know that a lot of the time we hang out with the wrong group? We hang out with that exhaustive group. Why is that?
Misery loves company.
Misery loves company. We are addicted to the chaos. We enjoy getting yelled at, screamed at, talked to like that. And that person sometimes has some stuff that we think they're the only ones in the whole world that can supply us with that stuff. Whatever that is. Affection, love. I've had so many people in my office that tell me, well, we love one another. Okay, where'd the black eye come from? Where did the punch in the gut come from? Where'd all that come from? Well, they didn't mean it. You mean they beat you up by accident?
They didn't know it was loaded. They're just cleaning it.
You say it again?
Okay, so I said they didn't know it was loaded. They were just cleaning.
Yeah. They didn't really mean to do. Okay. I have been beat up before. I've never been beat up by accident. The people who beat me up did it on purpose. Oops, I'm sorry, I hit you 9 times. Ooh, and so anyway, hang out with the people who lift you up. Get away from the people who tear you down. That's going to help us with all of that stuff. That's setting up healthy boundaries. Here's some things. We have several different boundaries up here. We have a rigid boundary. Then we'll have an open boundary. And then we'll have a normal boundary, and there's some differences in them. And if we have a physical boundary, that means this is the kind of boundary we want to have, and this is helping us to communicate my boundary. I want to be able to tell somebody what my boundaries are. What good is a boundary that you can't make known? If I don't know your boundaries, what good is it?
You won't cross it without even knowing you.
Yeah, it's not there. People will cross your boundaries, all of that kind of stuff. I don't like close talkers. For all of you who may know me and want to talk to me, I don't like you to get right here. I don't want to know what you had for breakfast. Right? So that's one of my boundaries, and you know that I'm verbal about that. Right? I'm telling everybody at both, I don't want you to get up in my face like that. I don't want that. So I have a 2-foot boundary around me, a 2-foot sphere. I can hear well enough. I don't hear like I used to, but I hear well enough to hear you within that 2-foot boundary. Don't be coming past that. So here are some basic rules and examples for communicating your boundaries effectively. Stand or sit up straight, maintain eye contact, and use firm but calm gesture to convey confidence and assertiveness. So we're supposed to be using confident body language. When you walk up to talk to me, I'm going to turn around and I'm going to look you in the eye and stand there in a confident pose. I want you to know several things. I'm not angry at you. I'm not mad at you for any reason whatsoever. I'm also not afraid of you. We're going to talk one-on-one. That's fine. Just know that you're not going to intimidate me. I'm going to be confident, and I want you to be the same thing. I don't want to intimidate anybody. That's not the point. But I'm not going to be intimidated. Can I be intimidated? Yes. Rattling snakes. Y'all know what rattling snakes are? Rattling snakes? Yeah, y'all know what a rattling snake is? They're all over in West Texas, and they'll do that right there to warn you that they kind of intimidate. Rattling. What do you think I would say?
Ragging it.
I'm from Mississippi, man. That's how we talk down there. Rattling snakes. The other thing, lions, tigers, bears. Oh my! Those can intimidate me. A feller, not likely. Yeah, But so, secondly, you need to keep your tone calm and respectful. I can tell you exactly what I need to tell you without raising my voice or using something that's degenerative in your about you. I don't need to do that. Speak calmly, assertively. Look, here's what we're going to do. This is what I'm not going to do, and this is what I'm not going to allow you to do. But I don't have to scream and yell at you. Avoiding raised voices or aggressive tones to maintain a respectful atmosphere. The way that I talk to other people, I'm hoping, sometimes, of course, we all slip, but the way that I speak to other people is the way that I want to be spoken to myself. Treat others like you want to be treated. That's the way I want to be. So be clear, set consequences if you need to, be specific about what behavior you want to change, and clearly state what will happen if your boundary is not respected. Look, this is my boundary. I don't like close calls. I want you to be about this far from me. That's close. That's pretty close. That's pretty close. I can see the hairs in your nose at that close. So that's pretty close. If you get closer than that to me, I will remind you of my boundary. If me reminding you of my boundary doesn't work, I'm going to do the escape clause. What does that mean? Excuse me.
Remove yourself from the situation.
Yeah, excuse me, I have to, and then I'm going to, like you said, remove myself from the situation. Because that's what I'm not going to do. And then if the person asks why you're leaving, I'm trying my best to be truthful about everything. I will tell them, well, I've asked you not to get that close to me. You don't seem to be able to deal with that, so I'm going to remove myself. And if they say to me, well, look, let's give it another shot, okay, we're being respectful, and I'm going to respond to that. Okay, let's do it again. They get back in, I'm going to remind them again, and then I'm going to, if it doesn't stop, I'm going to leave. So the big thing is active listening. Communicating a whole bunch of things about communication. One of the things about communication is active listening. That's why when you go to sleep in my groove, I point it out, because you're not active listening. Or when you're reading your letter to Santa Claus, then, you're not actively listening. You're reading your letter to Santa Claus. And you can't know. And even when I point it out, just keep reading because you're not paying attention. So, yeah, you're not paying attention. So, stay firm in that. Practice that. Listen to the other person's response without interrupting. Anybody have any problems interrupting people? If you interrupt people, don't do that. That is the most disrespectful thing you can do. What that tells that person is what they're trying to tell you right now is not important. What you have to say is more important than what they have to say, which means that they are more important than you. Don't do that. Listen. Let them finish what they're saying. And then, I don't talk to people who interrupt. If you interrupt me, okay. You don't want to know what I have to say? You're going to interrupt what I'm saying so that you can interject what you've got to say? Well, okay, you just go think about what you got to say, talk to somebody else, because that was my turn. So, because I'm not going to interrupt you, even if you're saying something to me that's not pleasant, you're saying something to me that's nonsensical, I'm still not going to interrupt you. I'm going to let you say what you have to say, and then it's my turn. You're supposed to wait till the person finishes their sentence and takes a breath. Because they may be going to continue that thought. Let them continue their thought. But if you are, if you do that, my wife used to do that all the time. Back in our early days, man, she'd interrupt me. But finally, I had to become her counselor for a few minutes, let her know what you're doing and this. And I let her know, and it broke her heart. And she cried for 3 days and all of that stuff. She don't interrupt me. People need to be told, look, if you're going to continue interrupting me, I'm not talking to you. And if I find myself doing that, I need to make a concerted effort to stop it. And if I do it, I need to say, hey, you know what, I apologize. And I had to do that. I was in my boss's office the other day, and her voice is not real strong. I mean, she's got a small, quiet voice, and I don't hear very well. And I thought she was finished, and so I started talking, and then I noticed, okay, she wasn't. So I had to apologize and say, I didn't mean to do that. So please repeat what you were saying and let's go on. Acknowledge their perspective. When a person tells me, look, I know you don't like people being within 2 feet of you. I know you don't like close talkers, but I feel comfortable with it, and I really want to get up way close to you there so that I can smell your aftershave because I really, really like it, and I want to get up close to it. Well, listen to that and affirm that. Say, yes, I know what you're talking about. I can give you the name of the aftershave, but we're still going to keep it. You have to stay firm in your belief. We're still going to keep it at that 2 feet. So, you don't need to get, okay, since you want to get close to me, come on up here so you can lick my earlobe. You don't need to do that, but you can affirm it. Yes, I understand it, but we're not going to do it. So there's some things, physical boundaries, some of the things that we can say. Please give me some physical space. Now, that's pretty good, but that's probably not what I would say. This is my boundary. Look, this is my boundary. Look, you're passing my boundary or something. I'm not comfortable with being touched right now. I wouldn't do that either. That's not how I would respond to that. Because what that says is, hey, come back and give it a shot later on. I'm not comfortable with being touched right now, but maybe later on. No, I don't want you touching. Don't touch. No, we're not this. I usually in a place like this, a facility or something, I will tell people this is a no-touch facility. We're not supposed to be touching. Yeah, unless you touch them harder. We're not supposed to. So I need to step away for a moment. Now I have done that. And you can make it look like something that has nothing to do with that person. They're getting within your boundaries. Oh, wait a minute, I have to step away right now. And you're just out of the situation. And then you come back later on, start it back up. And I would appreciate it if you didn't stand so close, stuff like that. Emotional boundaries. I feel overwhelmed, right? Have you ever told anybody you feel overwhelmed? I have. Man, this is just overwhelming. I can't do this anymore right now. So, I need to take a break. You got this conversation. I'm not comfortable discussing this right now. And I've done that a lot. When somebody, they want to talk about something that I know is going to make me angry, I'm going to tell them I'm not really comfortable with discussing that right now. Because I know if we talk about it, I'm going to punch you in the head. So I don't want to do that. And so I'm not going to discuss something with you I know I'm going to allow myself to get angry. So there's a couple other things we're going to look at. But first, we're going to take about a 15, 20-minute break. We'll get back here about 15 after, and we'll start it back up again. Ooh.
Yeah. Not really. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know. Oh, yeah. Oh, season. Zero five. I got it. Yeah.
copy of it. Yes, sir. I'm gonna say learn so much right now. Ever cross something? We learn something new. I'm gonna do it. Turn up. Listen. Yeah. Okay, that's all I got. Yes, I will. Ah, ah, I know. Gabi.
What's up, man?
Good.
Yeah.
No, you're lost.
Yeah. Brian.
Hey,
Yeah. It's breakdown, baby. Wow, with my Absolutely good. Absolutely not. I'm gonna make my guy. I'm gonna make my guy. No battery on Windows 13. Hey! What's going on, dude? Back. Come on, there.
Right.
to be.
Tell me that it's break time.
I didn't tell you. Yeah, so it's not right here. You want that? I figured I could get sleepy. Baby Chris. Oh, you're just old feller. No. No. Airflow can get really good. Yeah, a little bit. And one thing I like kind of be in that thing. But, you know what I mean?
I'm doing okay. Why you hanging around here? You trying to ask me something?
Me?
Are you trying to get my attention?
Oh, no, I was at first, but I was like,
What you want?
well, I was gonna ask for a cigarette, but I already had a cigarette, so
You already have some. Okay.
that's it. It's good. Man, yeah.
research room where y'all are doing groups and stuff like that. I'm assuming y'all are on break right now. Robert, there's almost always a new system there. So our research use our main
Hey, let's try to smells good. Keep racing.
That's so cool. I'm cool.
All right.
What's up, my friend?
All right.
Yeah, pretty good. That is expensive now to work out.
What are you doing there? What problem?
Dave? Yes, sir. Waiting on you.
I'm here.
You're on time. Like you're close. You're 30 seconds late.
30 seconds late. My goodness. All righty. Group started back. There's a couple things I want to share with us on the boundary thing before we go any farther. We're going to look real quickly at a self-care inventory. But before that, let's just go over the boundaries here. We talked a little bit about rigid boundaries. A rigid boundary is where I just won't let anybody in. And I'm here doing what I'm doing because I don't want.
When you say rigid boundaries, are you talking about in general or certain situations?
Well, in general, when we have a rigid boundary, we just have a boundary for everything.
Oh, okay.
And we're not. No, there are some things that I'm specifically, I'm not going to let that happen in my life, and I have a boundary on that. That's pretty rigid. But a lot of people have a general boundary that's rigid, and they just won't let anybody into that. They don't have any, they won't allow any interaction. They don't have any sexual activity with anybody. They won't let anybody know anything about what they're thinking and all of that kind of stuff. That's a rigid boundary. They're just rigid in the way that they think and the way that they do things, the way that they respond to people. Where's the group? I guess they all decide to stay outside, so that's all right. So that's a rigid boundary, and usually when people have rigid boundaries, they don't emotionally interact with people, and they don't get emotionally involved, and they don't have a whole lot of stuff going on for them in that way. And an emotionally rigid person or physically rigid person, they're usually, when they get connected with somebody, they're going to mess up and get connected with somebody who has a porous boundary. And a porous boundary, the word porous means got holes in it. It's porous like the Swiss cheese. And so that person, when they get hooked up with those people, it turns out pretty bad. So the second boundary, of course, is the porous boundary. So what's a porous boundary?
Let's change the room. Let's people.
Yeah, pretty much.
Solid.
Pretty much anything. Yeah, they'll just let anybody do anything. Whatever you want to do as well. And this, in the rigid boundary, nobody's going to do anything. And so we're just not going to interact on pretty much any level. But in the porous boundary, we're going to interact in every level. So, I mean, they're going to just whatever you want to do. If it's sexual, if it's emotional, if it's physical, they're just going to be open. These guys here, mentally, you're never going to hear anything about them or from them. They're not going to tell you anything, right? But these other people, these people here with this forest, they're going to tell you much more than you need or much more than you want to hear from them. There are things about you I don't want to know. Yeah, there's things about me that you're never going to know. I'm not going to tell you because I have a normal, healthy boundary. So you had a question. I may have talked you out of it. Did I talk you out of it? Good. So that porous boundary, though, that they're going to tell you stuff you really don't want to know. They're going to be overly open, right? Yes.
And so there are three boundaries, like you said, rigid.
Yeah, there's rigid and there's porous, and the last one is healthy. Did you have something?
Oh, no, I was just saying I need that.
Okay, you have a porous boundary. Well, that's something you need to fix because that ain't good. It's not good to have a rigid boundary. You need to be able to share your feelings and your emotions with other people. Having a rigid boundary, as we explained for 30 minutes before you guys decide to come back to group, is detrimental to you. It's not a good thing. It's going to shut people out. And if you have heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we need people in our lives. We need people in our life. So if you're one of those people who shut people out, we do that a lot of the time because we're afraid of being hurt. We're afraid of being embarrassed. We're afraid of being shut down. We're afraid of all of those things. So we build these rigid boundaries where nobody's ever going to do anything to me. Nobody's ever going to do anything to hurt me, embarrass me, make me feel bad. Nobody's ever going to do that to me. Because I have this boundary up, buddy, you can't get through this thing. I know people like that. I've tried to help people like that. It's very, very hard when a person has built those boundaries starting from when they were 8 years old until now when they're 45. It's really hard to melt some of those boundaries down. But it needs to happen. And the best way to do it is we have to first recognize if I have a boundary in place and what type of boundary it is. And if I know, hey, I have these rigid boundaries, I'm just not letting people in, then I need to realize that I do need to let people into my life on certain levels. I don't need to let people know everything there is to know about me. That's a porous boundary. And that also is not a good boundary. People with a porous boundary, they get taken advantage of all the time. If you have a porous boundary, you're going to tell people everything about you. These are the people that when somebody calls you and say, hey, we're from the Social Security Administration and we need your Social Security number, well, they'll give it to them. And the other people over there hang up on them. So we need to be cautious about that. If you meet somebody and 10 minutes later, they know your age, your short size, where you live, how many children you have, what your likes and dislikes are. You might need to back off of that just a little bit. Here's one thing. I really don't care to know all that crap about you. If I want to know all that stuff, we'll start a relationship. Yeah, I don't need to know all that. I had a lady that came to work for us out at the prison one day. Her supervisor was leading her around. She passed by my office and said, the supervisor said, this is Dr. Garner's office. He's our director. And then, hey, that's how you know it. And then they kept going. And the supervisor went to the bathroom down the hallway. And this lady came back to my office. Came into my office. No knocking, no anything. Came in and she said, hi, Dr. Garner. I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciate seeing you. And I said, okay, thank you. And then she started telling me some stuff and just started relating some stuff to me that was completely embarrassing, unnecessary, something that, one lady might tell another lady, but never a guy, especially somebody they just met 5 minutes before. And in about 15 minutes, I'm going, oh, my God. You know, I knew in my knower, she cannot work with this population. She'll be telling them everything, you know, and so she can't work. So finally, the supervisor came back and said, "What are you doing in here?" She said, "Oh, I was just telling him some stuff happened in my life." So she took her out of there and she stepped back inside. And I said, "You know, you need to just help her on to the front door." So that's exactly, you know, she would have been killed in that situation. You know, so it was just, you know, there are some things you need to keep to yourself. You know, so we don't need to do that. So here's the deal, rigid thing. That means I'm not letting anybody in on any level. That's not a good place to be. We need people in our lives. One of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs is I need love and belonging. These people may have somebody in their life, but it's not because they love them. It's usually because they have money or something like that. So they usually don't have a good relationship. These people right here have 35 people in their life. You know, 34 of them are sexual partners. You know, and the other one just don't like them that way. You know, but they could be if they wanted to be. So these people, we don't need to be with that very open, porous boundary either. These people really don't have a boundary. You know, just anything goes, whatever. Okay. These people here are all me, me, me. These people here are all anything, anybody, anywhere. You know, and then this one is what?
Balance.
This is a healthy boundary. You see how some of this, it's got a blue one, but it's still a brick wall. There's some things that a healthy boundary says, nope, not going to happen in my life. Not going to do that. But I've made the choice. It's not because I'm rigid on everything. It's not because I'm porous on everything. But look, there are things in my life that's not going to happen. I have that boundary up there, and when you come into my sphere, when we get close, when you know me, you're going to figure out that doesn't happen in my life. I don't drink. I don't drink. I don't use profanity. I had a minister tell me a couple of weeks ago, I'll still cuss. Congratulations. Lord got to get a hold of you one day. You know, that's not good. You know, that's not good. So I don't use profanity. Why don't I use profanity? I don't want to. That's my boundary. I don't use profanity because I don't want to, and y'all don't get offended because I know just about everybody does. But I see it as a lack of a good understanding of the language. If I can't express to you how I want you to feel, I drop back on usually this one word. You know, and I had a person talking to me for a couple of minutes and 5 or 6 times, F this, F that. Okay, all right, I don't need to talk to you. You know, I mean, you know, go back and figure out how to converse with humans and then come back. So in my life, there are some things that are not, they're solid rock boundaries, not going to let them get crossed. And when you come up to that boundary, I will let you know. Don't do that. I don't do that. Well, we're all going to have a drink to celebrate. Not me, I don't do that. Well, don't you love that? Not that much. I'm not going to do that. That's one of my boundaries. One of the things that you need to do about healthy boundaries is let people know your boundaries. You know, don't sneak around and pretend and you know, let people know. This I don't do. Don't cross that boundary. We're not gonna do that. So, you know, that rule that I have that about 2 feet, pretty close enough. I think you're close enough. I can hear you, see you, smell you. Don't need you any closer than that. You know, that's a pretty rigid boundary with me. I just don't like that. Now, I will tell you this. I have people in my life that can come up and hug me. And I'm okay with that. So sometimes my boundaries are a little less rigid, right? Sometimes I have some porous boundaries. And, you know, they're not totally porous, but they are open to people coming up and loving on me and certain people. I can almost, there's a counselor around here, I won't call her name, but I can almost guarantee you if she walks in, she's going to hug me. That's what she does, you know, and I'm okay with that. But only if I don't want you hugging me if you don't know me. I've gone to places where people want to just come. I don't know you like that. I don't want to do that. So this is a healthy boundary. This boundary knows that I need human interaction. This boundary also knows that I need healthy human interaction. I don't need to sleep with everybody I meet. Well, it's true, and I've known people who had that issue, and I don't need to have that issue. I also don't need to converse with everybody I meet. I don't need to let everybody I meet know what my address is. I don't need to do, and I'm not going to do those things. But there are people that I'm going to allow to get into my sphere and be right there and get as close as they want to get, right? Because that's a healthy boundary. Having some of those boundaries which are impassable, and having other boundaries where you can get through with them. But they still are in place, and they are my boundaries, and everybody knows them. We don't need to have secret boundaries. This is what I don't do. And I don't think you need to have it written on your forehead or anything like that. But when somebody steps near that boundary, we need to let them know. Yeah. When I'm in the midst of a group of people and they start using profanity, I let them know, hey, I don't do that, so y'all just go ahead. I'm going to step out. Or they say, all right, we're going over to the bar here. We're going to have a few drinks. I'm not going with you. I don't drink. I just don't do that. I do not want to do that. Well, let's go out here and have a cigarette then. No, I'm smart. I'm not gonna do that. Do I do goofy, stupid stuff? Yeah, I don't do that goofy, stupid stuff, but I do. I have, today is like the 4th day without sugar. So I started again, and you always get sugar in something, but no blatant sugar. Just.
I was going to ask, so everybody outside smoke makes more.
Well, no. Everybody out there, I know some brilliant people who do stupid stuff. I know some brilliant people who use drugs and alcohol. Yeah, and that's not the smartest thing we've ever done. And to light up a cigarette, that is the drug that kills more people than all other deaths combined. You take every other form of death that's killed people last year, you put them all together, the use of tobacco products has killed 3 to 4 times as many as everybody else has done. And so to know that, and then to go outside and smoke 1 or 2 or 3 of them, that's not the smartest thing we've done. And so to go and eat a big old plate full of honey buns and stuff like our boss gave us the other day, that's not, for me, that would be deadly. Sugar, if you look it up and research it, is poison. It is more addictive than cocaine. And and I know in my own life, if I go back here, Miss Susan's always got candy, a candy bowl. If I get one of her little pieces of candy, one little piece, that's not going to hurt me. But that's not going to be the end of it. If I take that one little piece, it's like any other addiction. I'm going to go over here to the dollar store and buy me one of them boxes of that stuff, and I'm going to eat all that I can. I'm going to get all of the sugar because your brain, once it gets a taste of sugar, your limbic system begins to scream for more and more sugar. And so, but I do that while you do that, So, of course, mine's killing me, but it's not killing as many people as it's killing you. Yours is. So those are the 3, and we need to take a look and we need to understand which one of these we have. If I don't have anybody in my life and I don't have any, relationships going on at all and never have and all of that kind of stuff, and I'm emotionally stunted because I just don't really feel things and all of that, and I don't really get angry and I don't really get my feelings hurt or anything like that, but I'm still just kind of on an even keel all of them. I may have a rigid boundary, and I may need to start maybe pecking at that a little bit, try to tear that down just a little bit, try to allow people to come in. That doesn't mean I'm going to allow them to come into my life to a place where they're going to hurt me or do something nasty to me, but I'm going to allow them a little bit more into who I am. I'm going to let them see a little bit more in my physical life, a little bit more in my emotional life, a little bit more in my mental life. And so I'm going to just let them move in a little bit and just do it a little tiny bit at a time until I get them to a place where I'm comfortable. Same thing with this. What do I need to do here?
We can hardly see that. That's a sponge.
Kind of.
Okay. You
Yeah.
can't see it from
Or it's an amoeba,
and something like that.
something like that.
The way the light is.
Yeah. I'm going to need to start plugging up some of those holes. You know, I'm going to tell myself, look, you know what? Here's the thing. You know, God is love. And He has demanded that I love everybody. But He wasn't talking about sexual. He was talking about emotional love in a whole different way. So the fact is that even if I like that person, even if that person's a nice person, that doesn't mean I have to have sex with them. Yeah, you know, that doesn't mean that. I need to have a relationship before I have sex. You know, I shouldn't be where, hey, who was that you were having sex with last night? I don't know. I'm not sure, but they were a really nice girl. Or they were a really nice guy. Okay. All right, but that's not how you do that, right? We have to have a little bit more of a boundary. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some stuff. I'm also not going to let you know everything about me emotionally. You know, if I have an open, porous boundary, I don't want you to know everything about me. I want to start closing off some of those holes, and the holes where, you know, it hurts my feelings if somebody does this, or I allow myself to get angry when we do. Not everybody needs to know all of those things that are going on with you emotionally. Don't need to know that. You know, all of the things that's happened in your life, if you want to tell those to your counselor or tell those to your therapist, that's a good place to do that. But you don't need to be telling that to everybody you meet. You meet somebody on the side of the road, and before you leave, they know everything there is to know about you. That's not a good boundary. A good, healthy boundary has a healthy mix of both of them. There's some things in my life you ain't going to get to. You know, there's some things in my life you're not going to get to. There's also some things in my life emotionally you ain't going to know about. You know, some of these things. Now, I do have an emotional side, and there are people that I share that with, but not with everybody. You know, not supposed to be like that. And, you know, we need to, because before you know it, somebody's got not all your emotional baggage and all of that stuff, but they also have all your money. And your car, and your house, and your cat. Yeah, the cat's gone too. So anyway, this is we are striving at having an emotional, a boundary that is healthy. So what do? I look at the situation and say, how should I respond to this? I shouldn't completely shut that person out, perhaps. But I shouldn't also open myself up for anything and everything that person feels like they require from me. I have a healthy boundary. So when somebody comes up and says, I would like to know you better, what do? Think about that. Okay, I want to look into your life. I want to see who you are, and I want to see if you're somebody I want to let into my life. And if you're not, then suddenly my boundary is a little more rigid with you. If you are, then my boundary is relaxed a little bit. Not porous, but relaxed a little bit for you. And you're going to meet, you guys are all fairly young, you're going to meet tons and tons and tons of people as your life unfolds, and you're going to have to make that decision with everybody you meet. Everybody you meet, you're going to have to make that decision. So, okay, just take a minute and think about it. One of the reasons that we allow people inappropriately into our lives is because we're people pleasers, and we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, and we don't want this thing called the third pork chop syndrome. You know what that is? That's feeling like I'm missing out on something. If there's 4 people and there's 3 pork chops, who's going to miss out? Nobody. Because we're going to cut one of those pork chops in half, and everybody's going to have a little pork chop. Or either cut them up the way that I think it was my wife that explained it, and said, okay, you got 4 people and 3 pork chops. What do? What is it?
Cut it in 12 pieces.
Cut it in 12 pieces. That's what she said. Cut it all up and put it in a pot of rice. And now nobody's without that. So, but see, that's what we do sometimes. Somebody comes in and they want to be in your life. And, You don't want to say, no, I don't want you in my life because we're afraid we might be missing something. I'm going to tell you, we're not missing anything. So there's 8 billion people on the face of the earth. So I can do without that one. I can do without that old boy. I can do without that lady. We can't. So we need to guard ourselves against the pork chop syndrome. Because look, there's all sorts of ways to get that need that's in our life to have people in our life fulfilled without it hurting us. You have somebody in your life that's caused you misery in your life. What's the response to that? Why? Yeah, look what that person is doing in your life. And if that person is causing misery and all that stuff in your life, you need to look, and nobody's telling you to dump all your friends, but you need to look at that person and say, okay, this is something I need to take a look at. What happened to my boundaries in that area? What happened? I'm supposed to have a healthy boundary. How did I allow that person to get to the place where they hurt me that way? So we need to take a look. Maybe my boundary is not as healthy as I thought. Maybe I need to take a quick look at that. So that's our boundaries. We need to be cautious about those boundaries. I want to go over real quickly. This is important in the holidays. This is important in family health time. We want to take a quick look at self-care inventory. How am I taking care of me? Right? These boundaries are part of taking care of me. So we need to be doing that. Self-care is any technique, anything that enhances your well-being and replenishes your mind and your body. I do some self-care stuff. I try to get enough sleep, try to get enough exercise, try to eat well, and still, I'm having all these issues with my stomach. But think about if I weren't trying to do some self-care, it'd be bad. Practicing daily gratitude is a good one. Laughing with a loved one. I don't hear enough people laughing. Laughter is actually a medicine. It helps us. It breaks up stuff that's in us, and it releases endorphins into our body. So we need to be laughing a little bit more. That's why we need to have some comedic things happening up here. Well, I try to be a comedian half of the time. Sometimes that's good for me. Sometimes people throw rocks, but taking daily walks, that helps your attitude, helps your mood, and helps your overall well-being. Y'all notice where I park down there? I park at the end of the parking lot. Why do you think that is? 2 reasons. One is for good health care, good well-being. I have to walk the whole parking lot to get back and forth to my car. And at break time, I go down there to call my wife. And, so I'm getting a little bit of steps in, kind of forces me to do that. My wife parks at the closest she can get to the store that she's going into because of issues. I park way at the back, and walk half a mile to get into Walmart, whatever. I'm not looking for the closest one. I'm looking for the farthest one, and I walk in. It helps me a whole lot just by that. The other reason I park at this is 2 good reasons. The other reason I park at the end down here is I've seen you guys play basketball. So I'm trying to protect my vehicle out there a little bit. But it's good to do that. A self-care routine, listen, is not one size fits all. It requires experimenting with so many different things. Look to see what works best for you. It's kind of like the boundaries. We know that there are different boundaries for different people. Different boundaries work differently in different situations. So we can do some other things that we can do. Here's some things that we can do. Just want to share them with you. If you're doing them already, great. If you're not doing them, think about doing some of them. And if you don't know where to start, just do something. So engaging in regular physical activity, walking, running, strength training, I go work out 3 times a week. It hadn't been good here the last couple of weeks because of my stomach, but it's something that helps. And I was reading a thing the other day or heard it somewhere, and it was talking about how important it is as you grow older to do strength training because it really helps as you grow older. More your bone structure than anything else. So you need to be doing a little bit of that. Ensure that you get enough restful sleep each night to rejuvenate your body. How many folks know that going to bed taking a couple of sleeping tablets is not the best sleep you can get? You should not. Look, if you have to use sleeping aids, you need to talk to somebody. Talk to your doctor or something. You need to get off those things. They're habit forming to start with. They're addictive, and it's not the best sleep. You need restful sleep. Eating a balanced and nutritious diet. Plenty of fruits, vegetables, a lot of grains. I try to do that. Sometimes, I miss the mark on that. Drinking enough water throughout the day to stay hydrated. One thing that's a little tough about getting older is your body slows down on its telling you that you're not hydrated enough. And I will tell you, I'm not hydrated enough. And usually, probably, you're not hydrated enough. We do not drink enough water. I drink a lot of coffee. That's not water. It changes the molecular structure of water when you boil it and put other stuff in it. So that's not water. We need to drink a whole lot more water than we're drinking. But as I was saying, as you get older, your body alerts you to you need water. You need some hydration. As you get older, that slacks off. Now, it's not fair, but when you get my age, you should be drinking more water, and your body's not telling you that you need it, so you usually wind up drinking less water. I stopped drinking sodas probably 5 years ago. I hadn't drank one in 5 years. Or I don't know exactly what it is. Could be between 3 and 7. I don't know, but it's been a while. Those things are horrible, and we got to get off of that stuff as quickly as we can. So that doesn't look like my call. I'm waiting on. So maintaining. Look, this is really important, and sometimes it happens a little less than it ought to. Maintaining good hygiene practices such as bathing, brushing your teeth, and grooming. That's self-care. That's also other care. I do not want to smell you, right? I don't want to. I'm sure it's interesting, but, so take a bath when you need to take a bath. And look, I'm going to tell you this. I am in recovery from lying. If I pass by you and you need to take a bath, I'm going to tell you. If you're a client, if you're a counselor, if you are whoever you are, I'm just going to help you. I'm going to say, hi, you might need to go stand in the rain for a little while. Whatever you do, get out the house. You need to take a bath. Attending regular checkups and following medical advice. This is a weird thing, but ladies don't do it as much as guys because, and I've learned this years ago, ladies are smarter than guys. Yeah, because when a guy goes to the doctor and the doctor says what is wrong with you, 90% of males will tell them about 40% of what's wrong. We lie by omission. We won't tell the doctor. That's the doctor's fault as well, because I'm not a hypochondriac. But when I don't feel good, I go to the doctor, and a lot of the times I will print out, type up a sheet. This is what's happening. This is what's going on, and I took one of those to my PCP a couple of years ago. She took a look at that thing and just chucked it. I know she didn't study what I'm just telling her. So that's not good. But we need to be honest with our doctor. Say, look, it hurts when I do this. And so we need to do that. Taking time to relax and unwind. take a nice hot bath, doing something, get a massage, something like that. Take some time for me, right? I don't do nearly enough of that. I have to go at my lunch. I'm going to be at lunch early. I have to go to lunch and go to the hospital. Hopefully my doctor will call me at some time today. But I have had a lady in our church, not her, but I had a lady in our church whose daughter had a stroke. And she's fairly young, but, of course, we all know what drugs will do, right? So it's a young lady on drugs and had a stroke. So she's at the hospital, and I have to go check on her. So I'm doing this, and I'm pastoring the church, and I'm working at the house, and I got a business, and all of this kind of stuff. So, I'm sure my endocrinologist has told me a couple of times, about every time I go to see her, you need to retire, doc. You need to retire. Go do something. Go to Scotland again. Go do that. But yeah, I don't know. We need to. Look, take some time to relax. Limit, or avoid the use of tobacco.
What?
Tobacco. Smokes. That stuff. And it says limit or avoid. If you can't avoid it, if you can't get rid of it, then don't use as much of it. So if you're smoking 10 cigarettes a day and you lower that to 8, is that good?
It's better than 10.
It's better than 10. It is progress. It is. And so that's helpful. How many cigarettes are okay to smoke a day?
None.
0. None. Don't smoke any of them. Don't do the vape stuff either. That's not smart. Don't do those kinds of things. But, if you can lower it down, if you're smoking, look, when I used to smoke, and I smoked 3 packs a day. That's 60 cigarettes a day. So if you can lower that down to 59, that's helpful. You still gonna die, and you're gonna die early, and but it does help. So and if you can get it down to 59, maybe the next week you can get it down to 55 or 60, something like that. You can start lowering it down. It also helps with money. I saw a pack of cigarettes the other day, cheapest pack of cigarettes I've seen in a long time. It was on an advertisement somewhere at a store, $4.99 a pack. That's some cheap cigarettes, for nowadays. And I've told y'all, but when I was smoking, I quit back in the 70s. Cigarettes cost 33 cents a pack. 33 cents a pack. So I was spending $1 a day to smoke 3 packs of cigarettes a day. And we were broke and all of that stuff, and so I figured that's one way to save money. I was going to save $1 a day in a month. That's $30 a month. Say it again.
The $365?
Yeah, $365 a year. And here's the deal: we were in the military making nothing. And so at the end of the month, my wife would usually have to call her mom, and mom would send us a $20 bill, which would keep us through the last week. Back in the 70s, a $20 bill would keep you through a week. Now it won't keep you through a meal. But so we were saving from me stopping smoking. We were saving that money and half again as much. So it was a good thing to do all the way around. So it also says, look, avoid the use of alcohol and other substances. Now they're preaching to the choir, right? We know we got to get off alcohol, drugs. We also know we've had smoking cessation around here, so we also know we have to get off of tobacco. We know. Now that doesn't mean we're going to, but we need to. So, let's see what else. Spending. Look, this is important. We don't do enough of it. I do it. I'm going to be going on vacation before too long if this belly stuff don't kill me. And we're going to go back. I'm ready to go now back to some state parks. I love to go to state parks, so we're going to do that. Spending time outdoors in natural sunlight. This is one of the reasons that I encourage the counselors to take the guys out, you guys, and the ladies should be doing this too, out in the back to, do your group out there. You get some vitamin D, sitting in the sunlight, fresh air, and stuff like that. We should be able to do it. I had somebody tell me the other day that in Beaumont, Texas, there ain't no fresh air. But it is fresher out there than it is in here. So go do what you can. So spend times outdoors, and it will improve your mood. Paying attention to your body's needs, such as stretching when you're tense, when you're starting to get some stress going on. Do so. A little bit of exercise will help you a lot. And then when you're tired, rest. Rest. These are some of the things I don't do well. I do try to do the exercising stuff, but I don't rest when I need to. And so, I need to do that. I don't get much sleep. I guess I do. I go to sleep about 8 o'clock and I get up about 4. So, I get around 7 hours. Sometimes I get 8. So, emotionally, we don't have time to go. Man. But let's do it real quick. I'm going to go through this. Y'all can listen fast, okay? Participating in activities you enjoy. What do you enjoy? What's the thing you enjoy more than anything? Yeah, you.
Fishing.
You like fishing? So if you like fishing, I'm not a fisherman. I have fished. It's not, the reason I don't do a lot of fishing is there's this real big chance you're going to catch something. And, if I catch it, I got to clean it, and then we eat it. I don't know. I like flying. When I think about flying, when I'm flying, it's just favorite. So that's the thing that brings me joy. So do something, find something that brings you joy, and then once you find something that brings you joy, what should you do? It. Yeah, it. Go do it. So I'm about to go to the woods, or maybe fly over the woods. I'm not sure which one's going to happen. So look, pretty good group. Appreciate y'all. Look, Christmas is coming. Going to be here. We may not be home for Christmas this year, but yet next year. And we're going to be sober, so we'll be able to remember Christmas. And that'll be good stuff. All right, I will come over after a while.